好，同学们大家好，我们继续讲圣经啊。那么我们现在从事实讲这一段事实上啊，Then Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his king's folk, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jija, sorry, 杰甲，我这个又很难读了，这个第一是这个名字啊，杰甲萨哈杜萨啊，but Jacob called it Galid. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." Therefore he called it Laban said, "This heap is therefore he called it Galid, and the pillar Mizpah, for he said, "The Lord watch between you and me when we are absent one from the other. If you ill-treated my daughters, or if you take wives in addition to my daughters, though no one else is with us, remember that God is witness between you and me." 啊，那么他要定那个又要定那个了啊，你要定那个好。那么这段我们看看，其实then Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about their children whom they have born?" 好，那么这个事实上这句话，它到底我们字面上面呢很难理解，它到底这个雷本到底什么意思啊？对不对？它那么稍等一下啊，这是31章，对不对？啊，31章，这个事实上它到底是什么意思啊？那么我们要看网上啊，31的43章，稍等一下，31的，这里是有一个31的15啊，那么要到31的43、17、18、19，不好意思啊，这个慢一点了。哦，那个30事实上太长了，时间太长，我们要 copy 一下，把它弄到这里来。31的43节。31的40节。The Laban answered and said, "The daughters are." 那么我们看看他的解释啊。Jacob has laid out his case against his father-in-law. He has angrily displayed his 20 years honest favor. And he shows that if the Lord had not stepped in for Laban cheating and would have left with nothing, God has been faithful and has been faithless and now has become powerless. 那么 how does Laban respond to this confrontation? He simply asserts both his rights and his inability to claim them. Laban seems committed to casting himself as a victim to the end. He insists that Jacob's wives, children, flocks, and possessions are all legally his. He believes he is the rightful owner, since Jacob came to possess them all as a kind of indentured servant belonging to Laban. In other words, everything that Jacob owns is ultimately owned by Laban in his eyes. 然后后面一段来了啊。However, Laban has been visited by the fear of Isaac in a dream. God has warned him, in essence, not to harm Jacob. Laban concludes by giving up. 他放弃了啊。What can I do? To save or protect my what I can do to save or protect my daughters and granddaughter. 他放弃了。 虽然呢，他一开始呢就是 label 呢，他声称呢所有的你的所有东西都是我的，但是呢，现在呢，他说我又能怎么办呢？他先把自己呢描述成一个受害者，等于说现在是受害，然后他说我现在呢为了保护我的女儿那个和那个孙子孙女我能做什么呢？In the end, Laban refuses to acknowledge that his daughters are running away from him and are not being dragged away against the 那个的。In the end, Laban refuses 那么他最终他是拒绝他这里呢是拒绝那么这一段呢是这一节呢是这个解释。那么我们现在呢就有点数了他呢现在呢这个话我们还得看下去现在我们已经知道了。对吧？他说这个话 ，then the answer to the daughters and the flocks are all mine. But when I said about these daughters or about their whom they have born 那么就说他现在这怎么办？你都是我的，那现在说好像那么我们这个注解看到了，那么我们看后面了这个有意思了Come now let us make a covenant 我们要签约了you and I and let it be a witness.Let it be between you and me 那么这个事实是我们要看注解，对不对？那么我们看看这个其他的版本怎么说的Laban answered, the daughters are mine and is mine, but what can I do this day for these my daughters whom they? Yet what can I do today about these daughters? Then the daughters are blah blah.What can I do this day to these daughters of mine? What I can do, in fact, but what I can do now about my daughter and their children? 那么好，这个呢我们要看下去，对不对？是不是？Let us and you and me let me between you. Come, let's you and me and let it serve as a witness between us. 这个 it 应该指证那个 covenant Come on, let us make a covenant. Let it be a witness Let it be a witness between 证明那个签订一个 Let us make a covenant so and be a witness to our commitment 这个条约呢就是一个见证Now therefore come on, let us make a covenant and for 好，那么我们看这个解释这个一定要看上下文Jacob and Laban have both apparently said what they needed to say. Jacob has made the case that he served Laban faithfully and honestly for 20 years. Only the Lord's protection and blessing kept Laban's mistreatment from leaving Jacob with nothing. Laban has confirmed that he believes he has the legal right to Jacob's wives, children, flocks, and possessions, since all were acquired while Jacob was a kind of indentured servant belonging to Laban. Laban has conceded, however, 那这个后面他让步了Laban has conceded, however, that he can do nothing to 他承认了to claim what he sees as rightly his, because Jacob's God has warned Laban in essence to leave Jacob alone 那么这个意思呢 Laban 呢他现在呢没办法了，他的意思我现在没办法，为什么我没办法你的那个上帝还警告过我了那么他 Laban 呢他不管违反那个上帝的意志就这个意思那么我们看下去Now Laban suggests they made a covenant to fully resolve their dispute 那签个条约就是彻底的解决这个问题 In part, the point of this covenant will be to establish a permanent separation between Laban and Jacob. Laban knows that he cannot compete against the blessing and protection of Jacob's God. He decides it will be better to simply keep his distance from now on and to keep Jacob from returning to claim any more of his property or inheritance 那么这个呢就是那个杰克那个雷本的目的了现在雷本呢他说他怕那个上帝 那么现在呢，他要跟那个杰克伯要做一个切割，他知道他已经现在没法阻止那个杰克伯。那么呢，就因为上帝警告过他 ，leave Jacob alone， 对吧？那么你要随他去，你不能伤害他，对不对？好，那么他现在要切割，那么雷本为什么要切割呢？他就说害怕以后这个杰克伯还会回来，再问他要那个继承因为现在如果不切割的话，那么这个杰克伯他的老婆是因为他的女儿，他是老丈人嘛。以后他还要有继承权的，对不对？那么这个呢，说明呢，这个雷本反正他是太精明了，对不对？他要做切割啊。那么这个呢，就是这个意思啊。好，那么 come now, let us make and let it be a witness between you and me。好，那么我们再看一下讲。So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar 啊。所以呢，那么 Jacob 呢拿了一块石头啊，然后呢把它竖起来。作为一个又是一个柱子啊，又竖了一个石头柱子啊，他们喜欢这个竖柱子啊。然后呢，好那么这个没有什么，我们然后我们看46。And Jacob said to his kinsfolk, gather stones, and they took gather stone and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap。那么这一句啊，这是什么意思？他对他的那个下面的人说啊 ，kinsfolk， 他对他手下的人说啊，这个不是说他说要他们去拿石头啊，搬一些石头啊，然后呢，他们搬了石头以后啊，他们做了一个石头一堆，对不对？一堆了以后呢，他们在这个石头的一堆的旁边吃饭啊 ，and they ate。那么这什么意思啊？怎么这个时候要立条约的时候要吃饭？那么我们要看46了，对不对？这东西又麻烦了啊，这个又有啊。And Jacob gather stone and they took stone and made here and 好heap and they 我们看看啊，这个就是 his relatives 啊 ，gather stone and they took stone and made a mound 啊 ，mound 就是一堆啊石头的 ，they ate there by the mound 啊。那么我们看看这个解释 ，Then his family members get stones, so they gather there and pile them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of heaps to eat the covenant 啊，那同学们，所以呢，我们有的翻译啊，这个我发现这个 NLT 啊，这个翻译比较清楚啊。我们现在对比下来，这个翻译最清楚了。你看看。其他的版本都没有说这个他为什么要吃饭，我原因是什么地方？这个地方呢，他又说了，他们啊坐下来坐在这个一堆石头旁边吃饭是一种仪式啊 ，to eat a covenant meal 啊，就说他们在订条约的时候要吃饭的，要吃东西的，不一定要吃饭啊，对吧？不，那么吃饭，反正要吃东西啊，那么这个是仪式啊。那么大家知道啊，对不对？那么我们看看前一这段，他为什么要 set up？ 那么这个时候 took a stone and set as a monument 那么一个纪念碑等于说，那么这个为什么他要竖一个纪念碑？那么这个应该好理解，他要签条约的时候要有一个 monument 的一个纪念碑的，要有个标志的，对不对？好，那么这个。大家明白了啊，这个他吃饭是为了仪式啊，这是啊。好，那么47啊，47，雷本 call it Jaga 什么像这个我们不念了，什么 Jaga 了 ，but Jacob call it Galilee 的。那么这个有什么意思呢？那么我们先看这个 C 啊，这个 C。In the Aramaic， 这个 Aramaic the heap of witness 啊，那么这个是意思就是 heap of witness 啊，然后呢就是说那个 Laban 呢就把它称之为这个 heap of witness，but Jacob call it Galilee 的，那么 Galilee 的也有一个那个 in Hebrew the heap of witness 啊，那么这两个词呢意思一样啊，同学们。但是这个语言可能不一样，那么为什么？那么这个47啊，sorry，这个47啊，我们要看了啊，为什么两个人的那个 to call it but 就会 call it。那么我们看 but 这边 call it 啊，那么这个翻译比较好 ，NLT 啊 ，to commemorate the event, Laban called the place 啊。which means witness power in the Arabic, and it will call it which means witness power in the Hebrew 啊。那么两种语言啊，那么我们看看它这个解释啊，它为什么这不是这两种语言啊？Jacob fled from along with wife in response to some 20 years of Jacob's wife and when a search for the to make a pact to separation 啊，那后面呢？ The covenant between Jacob and Laban and their respective clans has been marked by both a pillar and a pile of stones 啊，那看到没？一个石柱子，还有呢一堆石头 ，as well as a ceremonial meal eaten together 啊，还有一个是 ceremonial 啊，这个就清楚了啊 ，ceremonial meal 啊 eaten together. Now the covenant is marked by naming the location 啊。Laban has been referred to as an Aramean, and his name for this place is Aramaic, 什么 Jaguar call it Galida in Hebrew. Both names mean and crown of the stone or the crown of witness 啊。那么大家这个明白啦，这个就清楚了。他们两个人啊，sorry。47对不对？47，他们两个人把这个地方啊有不同的称呼啊，就不同的名称起名字啊，因为语言的不同啊，一个是 Aramaic 啊，那个 Aramaic 的那个语言啊，还有一个是 Hebrew 啊，这个咖喱的是 Hebrew， 这个是 Jaga Sahadusa， 这个是 Aramaic 啊，那么这两个词的意思一样的啊。好，那么这个就明白了。好，后面那么怎么说了啊 ？Laban said 啊，这个48，Laban said this heap is a witness between you and me today. Therefore, he called it Galid. Therefore, he called it Galid. 那么不对啊，这Oh my goodness， 我们要看48。对不对？Laban is between therefore he named it Galid. Laban said, "This is between you and this is why it was called." Laban said, "我们看看这个啊。Then Laban declared, "This pile of stone will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today." This claims why it is called Galid, a witness pile. And Laban said, "Is a witness between you and me, and therefore the name called Galid." 好，那么我们来看啊，他为什么这里那个前面应该那个雷本不叫他那个。Jacob and are making a covenant together, establishing the peaceful separation. Jacob has been cheated and aroused by yet able to prosper thanks to the God's intervention. As much as Jacob might like to forcibly say, he has expressly warned but not to be that. So the two clans has established an agreement and markers to consider. These verses explain the details of that arrangement. 后面来 both groups have given the place of their meeting names, which means heap of witness. Now Laban says that this heap of stones will serve as a witness to their agreement. Galid is the Hebrew term for cane of stones or cane of witness, which is equivalent to the Aramaic name given by Laban in the prior verse. The following verse gives another Hebrew title for this important location 啊。那么这个地方啊，那么现在呢好像他改口了。那么 Laban 呢，他也用希伯来语了啊。Therefore he called it 啊。那么就这样啊。Therefore he called it 啊。那么因为 Laban 啊，他也懂希伯来语的啊。This heap is the wisdom between you and me today. Therefore 因此呢this heap 这一堆啊，这个地方。Laban call it 啊，那么 therefore he called it 啊，那么我们看49啊 ，and the pillar 啊 ，and the pillar Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from when we are absent one from the other 啊，那么这是 and the pillar 啊，那么他把这个柱子叫什么呢？叫这个。那么我们来看49，49 Lord watch between and when we are out of another side, and when we are out of one another side. It was called. He said, May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other。我们不两个人分开的时候，等于说这个是这个 pillar 是见证啊。好，那么我们看看这个。But it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, May the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant as we are out of each other's sight 啊。那么 and pillar, for he said 啊，他说他也把这个，那么这个里面呢有点混乱啊。这个翻译啊也有 also，他为什么说 also 啊？因为他这一堆东西跟那个 pillar 是不一样的啊，两样东西，它是竖了一根石头，然后呢放了一个石堆，对不对？好像这个两样东西啊。那么好，那么我们来看这个啊。James has heaped up a pile of stone to serve as a permanent witness to them when they are about to make together. This formally separates the two camps. Leaving from another. Both have given the place a name which means kind of all that. Now Laban also gave the place a second name. Now Laban also gave the place a second name, or possibly refers to an existing name for this location. Mizpah is a Hebrew word meaning watchtower. Laban indicated as a prayer for of sorts that the Lord would watch the behavior of both parties to ensure they stick to the end once they are out of the sight from each other. 那么 this stipulation is almost comical, coming from Laban. The entire reason Jacob left taking his wife is that Laban has repeatedly cheated, lied, and manipulated. For some 20 years, Jacob and his family, including Jacob's own daughters, have suffered for the sake of Laban's greed. But now, Laban invokes God as a witness, as if Jacob is the one who needed to be monitored and held in check. 他把它倒过来了，那个雷蒙很那个的，很恶劣的，他把它倒过来了。那么 and the pillar for he said, the Lord watch between you and me when you are absent from when we are absent from when we are absent one from another absent one from another 就是我们两个人分开的时候明白吗？这个是大家明白啊。and the pillar， 那么呢，我们这个根据我们字典里面的我们的解释呢，我们的那个注解好像呢，他把这个地方这个 heap 你看到吗？他这里讲的是很清楚啊，这个 heap 呢，它叫这个，然后呢，它那个 pillar 呢叫这个啊。那么我们那个圣经解释呢，好像都把它这个地方这个地方，但是呢，这里面我觉得我们这个翻译还是有一点意思呢，就是说这两个东西分开的，一堆。然后呢，还有一根是柱子。前面他说先竖一根柱子，然后呢再堆一堆石头，对不对？所以呢，这两个东西呢，你说它的，你可以笼统的说它是同一个地方，那你也可以说它两个是分开的那么就这大致这是。For he said between the 这么的好，那么50句最后是50If you ill treat my daughter, or if you take wives in addition to my daughter, though no one else is with us. Though no one else is with us, remember that God is witness. 如果你那个你如果对我女儿不好的话，或者说你还再娶老婆的话尽管没有人我们没有人能看到为啥你们我们跟你们分开了。你要记住就上帝是见证，你和我之间的见证这个50呢，应该说，我们看一下这个注解 After all the ceremonial aspects of Mabel's covenant are complete, Laban begins to name the terms of the agreement. This will establish their peaceful separation, allowing Jacob and his family to return to Canaan. Laban's first stipulation is that Jacob not oppress Laban's daughters or take any other wives in addition to his. Laban calls on God to be a witness in this and or for Jacob to be accountable to God. Apparently, it was common for a covenant between a man and the foreign husband of his daughter to make this. Apparently, it was common for a covenant between a man and the foreign husband of his daughter to make this agreement. In theory, Laban intends this as a protection for his daughters. Women were often seen as vulnerable and in need of special layer of care in that era. 好，那么这个呢，他为了保护他那个的啊，保护他女儿的。Of course, this rings hollow to readers of Genesis. Laban has arguably been guilty of both oppression and causing Jacob to marry multiple women. Even Laban's daughters, now Jacob's wives, agree that their father has particularly sold them and made no provision for their inheritance. Given his prior history, this seems like nothing more than an attempt to save face. One last chance for Laban to pretend that he only has his family's best interests at heart 啊，那么他就是这虚伪啊，那这种，那么他的这个意思就是。你不能虐待我的女儿啊，或者是你再娶老婆啊，你我要见证啊。那么好，那么这一段我们看一下那个我们这个注解31、43啊，sorry 43到多少？43到50。31的43，它这里是43到54啊。43到54。The story is built around an old tradition regarding a boundary covenant between Arameans and Israelis, both of whom laid claim to the region of Gilead in northern on the Pillar Sea 啊。那么这个 story 啊，这个他说这个故事啊，这个故事这是那个背景的东西啊，就这现在讲的这个故事啊，圣经里面现在讲的是讲到这个过程，是建立在什么一个更老的一个传统的一个故事基础上的啊。一个故事有关于什么？有关于这个界限的啊，就是说那个Arameans 啊，那个以色列人和那个Arameans 这个他们的签订的一个 boundary 的 covenant，boundary 就是边境啊，边境条约。他们那个时候呢签过一个边境条约的，那么呢因为那个两个以色列人和那个 Aramean 都认为他们对于那个他们有那个 claim 叫 Gilead 啊 Gilead 的那个地方啊，他们都声称对于这个地方有那个claim 啊。就是我声称是我的啊，明白吗？那么这样的话呢，他们最后呢就定了一个边境的条约。那么这个故事呢，就是从这个建立在这个基础上的啊。那么这个就是这个好。那么后面47啊 ，The stone heap is given two names 啊 ，one in Laban's language, Aramaic, and one is Japanese Hebrew 啊，你看到没有？这个 stone heap 那47，那么我们看47啊，你看到没有？啊，这个就我们这里的注解47，就说这个 stone 啊，有两个名字啊，一个名字是在这个 Aramaic Aramaic 这个语言，那个还有一个是 Hebrew， 但是后来呢，他也叫它 Hebrew 啊，也把它称作 Hebrew 啊。那么这个里面东西嘛，所以啊，我们不看注解，不看这个背景啊，你光这么念啊，你根本就不知道怎么回事啊。怎么他说这一句啊，你会感到莫名其妙啊。 Laban call it 这个名字，然后 but Jacob call it Galilee，那到底是什么玩意儿，对不对？我们搞不清楚啊。那么原来呢，它是两种那个语言，对不对？那么像这种东西啊，一定要看注解，对不对？不看注解的话，你根本就不知道。好，那么现在呢，这一段的注解呢就没了。好，那么我们下一次呢，我们从这个再看下一段了啊，看下一段可能是最后一段啊。现在讲到这，谢谢大家，再见。